Oh, all right. So today I'll be telling you what I've learned from this thing we call life, which is what you have after college if you don't do a master's degree. So hi, if you don't know me, my name is Daniel. I studied at this university called Kriya University, and now I am a working person. So today I'll be telling you what I learned from life so far. Alright, so the first lesson I learned is related to where do you get your energy from? Now, this is not a sponsorship into Me Power Banks, although they're quite good and you should get one. I'm talking about whether you're happy after college. See, everyone is wired differently. Some people couldn't care less that college is over. Some people care a lot, and it makes them really happy that now you're earning something and you don't need to deal with assignments anymore. But for others, such as myself, you develop a void from being far from the campus and far from your friends. And that void can be a little difficult to fill. That void is completely normal, and that is the first lesson. It's normal to feel this way, and you shouldn't feel like there's something wrong with you. It's just part of being human. But how do you fill that void? That actually goes to my second lesson that life taught me, which is hobbies. Now, everyone has different kinds of hobbies. Sometimes it's reading, something that involves just using your brain all the time. In my case, however, the place I was staying at didn't have a piano, and so I couldn't really indulge in my piano. 5 attempts. However, what I could do was develop a hobby I wanted to develop for a long, long time. I think 6 months before graduation, I wanted to get this hobby, motorcycling. After college, I began to attend motorcycle classes and eventually got my license. When I got my license, I decided to put my skills to the test and rent a proper 350cc cruiser and take it around the town for 3 hours. Once I did this, I felt comfortable, and so a few weeks later, I think 2 weeks later, I rented another bike and decided to go quite a distance from town, around 2 hours one way, so I could enjoy some good scenery along the way. Long story short, it was amazing. And then I did it again the next weekend. Pretty soon I developed a real affinity for this hobby. It's really fun. Motorcycling is a great way to really experience that freedom. Now, a big part of this process is privileged. You have to be able to afford the rent for a motorcycle, you have to be able to pay for fuel, and you have to be able to pay for the extra miles that you might be charged for in the case of a rental. These are things you will have to contend with for such a hobby. And let's not forget, for many people, their parents are not going to be so okay with them just getting on a motorbike and going far away. So the lesson here is try new things. See what works for you. See what fulfills you. Along the way, you learn a lot about yourself, and it's actually worth the effort pursuing hobbies that make you happy. Alright, so this third point, I've gone over this partially before, but I want to talk about it in a different light this time, which is managing your money and your time. When you're left to your own devices outside of work, you truly have a lot of control over how you spend your money and time, for the most part. If you're in a situation like this, it can be very easy to overspend. It can also be very easy to be extremely cautious of every rupee that leaves your wallet and you begin to think of everything as a huge expense, and you don't even want to come close to buying anything above a certain amount, and basically you become a perfectionist. The key, I think, at least in my experience, is to find a middle ground between these two extremes. So look at a reasonable budget per month for, say, food, and think about what percentage that is of your monthly income, and talk about, okay, if I increase my investment amount and increase how much I'm putting into savings, how much does that leave on the table for things like food? And let's not forget emergency expenses, travel expenses, maybe even insurance. Things like this add up if you don't take care of them. So, budget reasonably and try not to be a perfectionist. I've talked about this one before, but I think it's worth mentioning again. Alright, this next one is important and it's health. Staying healthy. You see, everyone's born with different genes. Some people have a naturally high metabolism. They don't have to even leave their room to stay thin and lean. I have been working out almost daily for the past, well, over 1 year. And if one thing has become clear, it's that no single workout will save you or keep you fit. No single diet will fix things. You need to live what I would call an active lifestyle. So just, it's not about running an hour every day or playing badminton every single day or something like that. No. It's about walking a little bit more each day, or maybe walking for a minimum of half an hour each day, counting your steps, right, with a smartwatch, seeing how active am I throughout the day, what percentage of the day do I spend moving around, things like that, small increments. And the thing is, our genes actually play a big role here. Some people are just born with horrible genes, and it's really unfortunate that they have to work extra hard to stay lean. Others are born with great genes, and so they don't feel the need to go outside and stay fit. But they also feel like they're underweight. And so there's this spectrum of fitness, and it's important to realize, okay, where do I fall on the spectrum and how do I combat that? So if you're someone who's overweight, how do I walk maybe half an hour more each day? Make it more bearable. Listen to some music or a podcast if you find it hard to get off the couch, right? Or if you're someone who's underweight, how do I go to the gym for like 5 minutes and lift a 1 kg, 2 kg weight? Things like that. This seems to be the message in every podcast and video I've watched about this, and in my experience as well, which is consistency beats intensity. Alright, so the next one is keeping in touch with your friends from college. Now, everyone is a little different in this regard, right? For some of us, reaching out every single day is effortless and it doesn't cost anything. In fact, we love doing it. For others, though, it's not so easy, and reaching out can feel like an exponentially difficult task in terms of mental energy. I happen to fall into this second category, and so think of it like a spectrum where people have different energy levels to socialize. Now, let's be realistic here. Everyone is a busy schedule, and it takes time to check text messages and reply, and sometimes you got to be in the right mood. And so, I think what seems to work really well is just give them a missed call, and if they care, they will eventually text you or call you back. And sometimes, even if they don't, that doesn't mean they don't care, they're just really busy. And I'm talking from being on the other side of this situation. Trust me, if someone doesn't reply instantly, it does not mean that they don't care. It really doesn't mean much. In fact, don't even think about it. Just give them a missed call, and trust me, you'll probably be happy you did. If your social battery... I'm sorry guys, I was just holding this power bank. I wanted to metaphorically demonstrate social battery. Speaking of which, I need to charge this one. Charging it up for tomorrow's motorcycle ride. I'm sure it's going to be fun. Alright, so this last one is actually related to your work, and it is ask questions during meetings. And basically in school, from my experience at least, people, myself included, were penalized for asking doubts and questions because the teacher is just annoyed they have to repeat something, right? Now, let me make something very clear. Asking questions in school is very, very different to asking questions in the workplace, because no one's paying you to go to school. At work, you're being paid. And so when you ask a question and you're not sure about something and you're ready to bring that up, or even like just clarifying why something exists, why a certain process exists, why a button is there on the screen, these things show interest and that you genuinely want to learn more. Tell me what's better in someone you're paying to do something: no interest or interest, right? So when your employer or your supervisor sees that you're genuinely curious, well, you're being paid to do your job. And so asking questions is really not a bad idea at all. And even if your supervisor says, Daniel, you asked, I already taught this, why are you asking? That's where another point comes in: take notes. Then you get to say, hey, I took notes, but this isn't there in my notes, and I'm not sure if I missed it, but can you please answer the question? Again, you're being paid. And so it's good to show that you're genuinely interested in performing your best at work because you're being paid for it. All right, so that's it, guys. I hope you found this video useful, and I'll see you in the next one. So look over here. This is a mountain road, and look at how steep it is. This is really steep. For perspective, this is the road, that is the drop off, and these are some humongous trees. Alright, so this is the diversion from the mountain road into this deciduous forest. The trees are really tall. Then we're gonna go here and reach the longest suspension bridge in Kerala, apparently. I think this is the Periyar, but no, the Periyar is bigger than this. This might be one of the branches of the Periyar. So it looks like we're gonna have to go on foot from here. I think it's this way.